What was your purpose in putting this out on YouTube?
Um, for a long time, people have always asked me to speak up, and to share my um, to share what I've done. And I've wanted to be quiet. I didn't believe that it was my place. I didn't believe that it would be helpful, that it would be more harmful than helpful. And that's the last thing I want to do. But honestly, the more I sit back and watch things unfold, the more tired I get. And I don't know if I can somehow be a part of the solution, being a part of some help, but I want to try something, you know. And so yeah, so that's my purpose right now, is to try to help out however I can.
When we first met you back in February, you were doing that. You were speaking out
Yeah,
to law enforcement. Are you wanting to continue that discussion with law enforcement and school districts?
yeah. I very much want to continue on, to be able to speak to, whether it's the teachers and administrators, or even be able to have an opportunity to speak with students themselves. I think that is very important to open up a dialogue even more about mental health, especially. I'll tell you that I've even had, just recently, I had somebody reach out to me, and we were talking. She revealed to me that she's currently a student at Columbia High School. And that kind of took me back, because we've been talking about how to prevent things like this from happening. And then suddenly, when I found out that, she's currently a senior there, it definitely, um, it definitely struck a chord with me, that somebody who's, currently going there, they're still struggling with this, obviously. And so, yeah, so here I am, just trying to do whatever I can. I don't know how much it will help, but I'll try. I was very troubled and disturbed, um, that I struggled with a lot of things that a lot of people do struggle with, but I um, I didn't take the steps that were available to me. And sometimes the steps available to me were limited or restricted. When I reached out and I asked for help from the school, I reached out and asked for help sometimes, and I was denied. And yeah, I could have kept going. I could have been more determined, and um, reached out in other avenues, which I did. But there was definitely a lot of darkness within me, which I wish I had opened up and been more honest. If I have anything to say to anybody, whether it's a teenager struggling or an adult struggling, it's for them to be more open, to be honest. Even the darker things within us, if we shed light on that, it can not only help ourselves in such a drastic way, but it can help out those around us, um, if we choose to open up with others, who may be also struggling. And I think that we have a unique opportunity right now with the internet the way it is, and the communities that have formed the way that they are. There are so many different ways that people can connect with somebody and realize that they are not alone in whatever they're going through. Even if you feel like you're alone at your school or in your community, trust me, there is somebody out there who can help you out. And you have to be careful, obviously, when reaching out to people online, but you can at least hopefully watch other people's content, watch my content, watch whoever's content helps you out and relates to you. But, whatever people have going on within them, you can definitely change it around. It's not permanent. Things do get better.
For people who want to know, are you trying to absolve yourself of these past sins, or are you really trying to help here?
There is no absolving myself. There- There's no making it right. There is only helping others and trying to prevent others. That's all there is. There's no redemption.
I've Googled, like, school shooter speaks out, school shooter talks. I have yet to see somebody who has done what you've done, and thankfully nobody was killed, but actually speaking out and wanting to help. Have you heard of anyone doing this? 'Cause I have not.
I really haven't looked a whole lot. Um, but remember, most people who commit some, you know, my intention that day was to die. The intention of most people who commit mass shootings, their intention is to die. And that's why obviously we don't always have an opportunity to talk with them and find out. And those who do survive, they're in prison forever, usually. And, they're prisons are not a place of um, changing your life around and of trying to help others, unfortunately. The prison environment is not for growth. So that's why it is unfortunately such a rare thing. And if there are others out there, that's great. And maybe those who have done it in the past, maybe, we can get them to speak up too.
I was looking at one of the more recent cases, the Parkland High School shooting with Nicholas Cruz. Either a lot of the victims and the parents who lost kids gave their impact statements. But one thing I found most interesting is that there are 30 documented times, at least 30, when people knew that he was threatening his mother, telling her to kill herself before he would kill her, bringing mutilated animals, deceased animals to school, um, talking about shootings, showing weapons, posting them online. And all those 30 times, no one who had firsthand knowledge came forward and reported it.
Well, I think that that's one of the things that needs to be spoken on, and we need something that's more developed. When I talk, mostly I want to talk about mental health and how can we help people who are struggling and going through these things so that not only they can recognize the early warning signs within themselves, but maybe you can help recognize the warning signs within your friends or somebody you know, and then be able to take a step further and to have somebody who you can speak to about this. And then we need to make sure that they have the opportunity, like you said, 30 chances were given and nothing happened. So we need to make sure that there are better avenues in which people can respond and people can respond in the best appropriate way. And, you know, I can't imagine things of such graphic nature going on. And unfortunately, nothing was done. It's a terrible tragedy within itself that the system failed. And 17 people lost their lives because of it. And numerous others are, struggling with PTSD and forever wounded psychologically because of that failure. Um, so that again speaks to the fact that we need to make sure that we have appropriate channels to reach out and to say, hey, I'm struggling, somebody else is struggling, and to make sure that something is done about it, to make sure that mental health is not swept under the rug, because that's what's going on in our society. We sweep it under the rug, we ignore it, we want to pretend like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do, or we pretend like it's just somebody going through a temporary struggle. Sometimes that's what it is, but a lot of times people truly need some type of intervention, and we do not do anything about it far too often. That needs to change. People say that I was there to kill others, that I was there, and the only reason why nobody else died is because the assistant principal, and I'm not going to name people's names because I believe that they deserve privacy. So somebody came and grabbed me and he stopped me. Yes. But that was not an immediate thing. I was walking around. I had plenty of opportunity if I so choose. And my mindset that day was one of a disturbed individual, but I knew I would be hurting others psychologically. I knew I would be terrorizing people. But if I had wanted to end the lives of others, trust me, there was plenty of chances. And that's what haunts me the most, is knowing that the lack of mental health, the lack of security, and everything that we have going on in society, Safety is an illusion most of the time. The security that people want to even put in too, a lot of times doesn't actually address what is going on. The security that people want to put in is just metal detectors won't stop a mass shooting. Security cameras won't stop that. Even teachers with guns won't stop that. They might be able to stop it after fewer people have been shot and killed. But I had the opportunity that day. I didn't do it. But if I had, and as we see with too many other people, there are police that fail to respond in a timely fashion. There are armed security that fail to respond in a timely fashion. That's why I focus on proactive measures, whether it's mental health, building a healthier and just more productive school setting where we can talk about this. New York State started to mandate that mental health be taught in the schools. But when the student that currently goes to Columbia High School reached out to me, I asked her about that. I said, well, don't you guys have mental health as a part of health class now? Her response was they spend a couple of days on it one time in their freshman or sophomore year. She's a senior now, and she's telling me she barely remembers anything that was spoken about because we take it so we just, again, we don't take it seriously. And I'm not talking about mental illness. I'm talking about mental health that everybody experiences, just like our physical health that everybody experiences, right? We learn the warning signs of when you're getting a cold or a flu, but we aren't taught the warning signs of when you might be entering into more than just a rough time, but a depression. We don't learn these aspects of how to reach out and who to go to for help. I've learned over the years of kind of the disassociation of kind of we just separate ourselves from what we're currently going through or what we're currently doing. And this was an extreme aspect of it where I can tell you so many details of what was going on in that hallway during everything, but it wasn't, I don't remember the decision makings, the thoughts in my head as some of it was going through sometimes. And I just remember one key thing was, just I wanted it to all end.
You didn't know any other way. I mean, you were 16 years old.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I know that people talk about that. They try to say, John, you were 16. We all make horrible decisions at a young age. This was beyond a horrible decision. But again, I do understand that when we're young, we think differently than when when we're older. And now that I've been able to get some of the help that I need to work on myself and to grow and to mature, I want to help and make sure that those who are younger, those who are, teenagers now can especially be more aware of what's going on within themselves, within their minds, and get the help that they need and feel comfortable doing so.
I really love how you say we talk about symptoms when it comes to ailments like physical ailments, but we rarely talk about the signs of mental health issues. And that to me feels like for some reason we're afraid of it and we just have this reactionary response versus a proactive response.
Right. Yeah, I think again, it's something where there's such a stigma against mental health that people are afraid to um, they're afraid to open up and to talk about these things, even if they're not the one experiencing it. Sometimes people are afraid to talk with one of their friends or family members if they see the early warning signs within their friend or family members, because there is such a fear that if somebody's depressed or anxious, that there's somehow something wrong with them that cannot be fixed. And this is simply not true. Um, and it's also not true that if somebody is struggling, that it means that it's a permanent thing. So many people go through temporary bouts of depression. And I think that the number one thing that I really want to focus on is ending the stigma against mental health. Please never take me as an example of somebody who struggles with mental health, because the majority of people who struggle never commit crimes. They never hurt other people. They are actually more likely to be taken advantage of and to become the victims of crimes. So again, I never want anybody to see me and to think of me as, a spokesperson. No, I never want that. I just want to talk to you and hope that we can, avoid such extreme measures like what I did and what I went through.
And you were the victim of a horrible crime too.
Mhm.
And yet you said while you still want this person to face justice, you still forgive this person.
Yeah. One of the things that I had to look into over the years was, what is forgiveness? And most of us we have different beliefs on what forgiveness is. For me, forgiveness is not saying that I have forgotten what this individual has done, or I believe that they don't deserve to be held accountable and punished. Forgiveness is something from me, the person who is doing the act of forgiveness, where I can say, I am not going to I'm not going to let it run my life, or I'm not going to allow anger to fill my heart towards this individual. That's not going to help me, nor is it going to help him or anybody else in society. So when I say I've forgiven the man who has permanently messed me up, I want him to be held accountable, but I'm not angry with him. I just hope that whatever is going on in his life, he can address it. Whatever brought him to this decision in his life, who knows? And I'm not expecting to get answers. We may never know why this happened. But anger is just a poison, and it'll only hurt me more than anybody else if I hold on to it. So yeah, I forgive him, but I still want justice to be served, you know, and I hope that as we go through this process, that it will be.
Any last thoughts that you want to share?
I mean, I think the most important thing is for everybody to understand that, um, whatever you're going through is not permanent. There are places and people where you can get help even when you feel that no help will ever do anything for you. It's out there. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find sometimes, but it's out there. And I hope that we can make it so that it's not so hard to find.